you ready? The teacher we are free. When you are too uncomfortable, you will face your fears. Then you may pause and wonder, what took you so much time? But questioning is pointless when everybody knows your crime. The sun is feeding me powerful rays, and today I will change my ways. Today any waiting just does nothing. I am decided to seize the day. I am decided to seize the day. I'm so grateful that I have the chance to look over my lessons and change my circumstance. The greatest gift you receive is the chance to improve yourself. Graduation from your past is the greatest source of wealth.
Oh, guys, that was Nature Airliner you just listened to there, and some pretty poignant music that these guys are putting out. And you know, if you look, there are just a ton of people coming out and making some really amazing music that talks about you know, what's going on here in the fringe world.
You know what's funny with that group? It's two people. Well, at least I only met two people from the group, and I heard them singing at a bar in Chiba, where I work at, and then I went to Dr. Emoto's, and we didn't really talk there, but I went to Dr. Emoto's, he was speaking at a place, and I saw them there, and I was like, hey, I know you guys from this bar in Chiba. And I was like, yeah. And then that's when they found out what I did. And then that I was like, oh, cool. So we're into this. So I said to them, oh, so you're just as nuts as me, huh? You believe in this crazy stuff? And they started laughing. And then she contacted me. So that was really cool. It's one of those coinky dinkies.
They're all over the place, are they not?
Yeah.
So, let's see. As you guys know, and or if you don't know, you guys can find us on www.thehundredthmonkeyradio.com, Vimeo, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, etc., 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 all those good places. And
you can also find us in the a new place that hasn't come out yet.
Oh my word, Ramon!
Wait, what are you guys inventing?
This is what I get for waking Ramon up before he's had enough sleep.
Yeah, this is exactly what you get. So I gotta apologize to everybody. I might be very scattered. We did an earlier show.
Oh, not more so than normal.
Yeah, no, not me.
Oh, jeez.
I'm a professional, Tom.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that.
So we finally got we've been doing the Nature of Money series with Spencer Barkley, and segment 3 should be out already by the time this airs. So please take a look at that. And you guys will really learn a lot from that.
That's some pretty amazing stuff when we actually start understanding how the system's set up. There's you know, the loopholes start popping into my head as we're learning more about this stuff. So, some good stuff. I think it has a part to play in the changes that are going on. So,
yeah, and I got this thought, and I feel like somebody's probably saying this. You know, when you're diving into the spirituality, why should we learn about money? And the thing is, you don't know what kind of contracts and webs you're falling into when you're ignorant and you don't know. Because just by you stating certain things, you fall into certain traps. And it's important to know because we want to, a lot of us, well, at least me and Tom, want to kind of get rid of this whole money thing because I don't think, why should we pay? But so there's loopholes that you can go through, and that's basically what we're trying to teach you.
Well,
So,
not only that, Ramon, there's so many of the principles that are applied in our currency system apply to everything we do in this world. I mean,
yes,
as far as once you learn the real fundamentals, truths within a system, then the whole rest of the system you're able to navigate without too many problems. I mean, the stumbling blocks are cleared out of your way, so to say, or the obstacles that you do meet are easily overcome. And it's that fundamental knowledge, that fundamental knowing is what we're looking to get people to
I
understand.
think to make it easier, you should probably explain currency because, like a current, a river, and something Spencer was saying that electricity and the way money flows is exactly the same way.
Right?
So,
Always returns to source.
yeah, so that was quite
Yeah.
an amazing
Yeah.
thing.
So, anyways, moving on.
Yes.
Let's see. Anything else on the business end there? The Pythagoras conference is coming up in just a few next week, right? So October 10th through the 14th. And there's still time if you are planning on going and haven't got your tickets yet. You can go to our main page, and there's a link there that'll take you to a place where you can buy tickets. And in doing so, through that link on our page, you can help us out with a certain percentage of the sales, which would go to us. That would be most grateful. So I think besides that, we're ready to roll on with our guest, Ramon.
Yeah, before you introduce them, I would like to say that I I very strongly believe that the people who listen, yourselves that are listening right now, are are drawn to this kind of stuff for a reason. Either you yourself have had some crazy experiences, or there's something about you that you want to learn more, or like me and Tom, you've been smacked upside the head with the proverbial two by four. I would say that our guests, from when I read the two books, I just kept thinking, oh, there goes that. It sounds like he was hit sometimes with the proverbial freight train.
Uh,
But again, keep a very open mind. You will be pushed to the limit in what you believe reality is. So, like Tom always says, what's the saying, Tom?
Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
So just keep that in mind because, like I said before, your imagination will be pushed. It definitely, I thought I had some really wild experiences, and they they're nothing compared to what I guess. So, Tom, who do we
Alrighty.
have?
So we have John Meyer with us tonight. He spent 23 years working as an engineer in the engineering department for a well-known pneumatic manufacturing company. I probably bought tools from them. He supervises many different departments, from the design and implementation of various product lines to the development of all the required literature needed. His management skills also spread to the design and maintenance of all the computer systems within the company. In his early 30s, he also owned a wildlife outdoor photography and computer repair company. Working with a broad spectrum of the types of jobs allowed Meyer to, or is it Meyer or Meyer?
It's Meyer.
Meyer, okay, Meyer to expand both his logical and creative sides, which gave him a greater base to draw upon when dealing with the supernatural side of life. His physical life came a distant second in comparison to his supernatural one. Meyer's life has been centered upon trying to understand the experiences imposed upon him throughout his life. From the visits and trips with many angels, guides, interdimensional beings, and demonic creatures in his early life, to experiences in realms and realities that reside just beyond our physical one. He has been taken to future events within his own life, experienced firsthand potential cataclysms, lived many lifetimes in other parallel realities in concurrent with his own, abducted and tortured by aliens and interdimensional beings, he has for many years offered his healing abilities to a couple of local spiritual churches, glimpsed into his own cosmic self, and came back with an understanding of the branch that mankind is about to take. Welcome, John, to the 100th Monkey Radio.
Well, I'm honored to be here, and thank you.
Oh, hold on, John. Yay! Okay, there we go.
I love that.
All right, Ramon gets his yay in, and I just sit here and shake my head. Oh, Ramon.
Yeah, so, John, can you tell us the secret how to grow hair on our head?
Once I find out, I'll let you know.
Oh, okay. All right, let's get on to the show.
I think it's a spray in a can.
That doesn't work that great.
Okay.
I want to grow my nice afro I had in my early 20s.
Huh, yeah. So, John, tell us about yourself. Where are you from? And where did this all, what's your earliest memories of what has taken you to where you are right now?
Well, when I started, the few memories I have, when I was young, I had came into this world with a dual type of memories of my life on the other side, in ethereal realms across the universe, as well as memories of past lives on this earth. And trying to cope with both of those, in addition to, living life as what everyone tells you life is, was a tough one. And early in life, till about, around 18, 19 years old, I was visited almost on a nightly basis from different beings, and they would take me to different places in this universe, or I should say this heaven, hell, whatever is typical people, believe in. And I was shown future events and past events, and as I got older, other events had happened, and as I was going through these trips, I noticed other avenues and routes that you could take, and that stemmed into following pathways into outside these realms and outside these realities, into universes that lie, or I should say, within this universe, areas that lie beyond. And that is when the thing, I should say, all heck broke loose, because I started experiencing time slips. I started experiencing time jumps, jumping from parallel realities, experiencing different time frames, seeing realms of different beings and energetic things. And then it became basically what I controlled ended up becoming losing control. So I would disappear for periods of time, and I would stay at these realms, like these realities, for weeks or months, or even a couple times years at a time, and then come back and be here. I've had experiences where you interact with things that are here and then not here and then here again, and then that led into what you would say abductions, whether from alien nature or from interdimensionals. I've had them both, and it led into me, trying to figure a way to escape from it. Now, I'm not crazy, mind you. I sat through trying to figure out all this stuff. So I had lived what I felt like 300 years, through the experiences. For example, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I want to go back to your early childhood real quick.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people report children who are normally before the age of 7 that have past life recall, that do bring something through the veil with them of their previous life or previous lives. What, you didn't lose that through that 5 to 7 year old range? Do you know what was a key component for keeping that memory with you?
Well, in the book I explain a little bit, and I'll touch a little partial on it, but most of my memory through these torture sessions and memory wipes had destroyed much of it. But from what I can remember was uh, belief systems. Like, for example, me being in these etherical realms and understanding how healing is done, which is a lot different than what most people do here, at least in my understanding of it. Understanding what everybody's concept of source is and what is really out there. The understanding of molding matter and energy and stuff like that. And when I was young, I was real frustrated because you knew what you could do, but not necessarily be able to accomplish it. So, and then the past lives, I remember stuff up until my mid 20s and 30s. When I'd run across somebody, I would know who they were and what they were in this world. When times when I lived like a monk's life, different monks' lives. Times when I was a officer in a army, way back when, and stuff like that with different people that come along my way, noble heritage, where I'd meet a waitress in a restaurant, for example, and she would stop, look at me, and drop the trays and start shaking like anything. She's never done that before in her life, and I'd flash the memories would be coming through me and stuff like that. So, yeah.
I think what Tom was getting at was how is it that you were able that because most of us are shut down because the way the system is, it's made to shut you down as quick as possible. So is it your parents, the way they brought you up, or maybe your guides or angels that kept that door open per se?
No, it could be, but I don't think it was my parents. My parents were normal, and I kept a lot of this to myself out of fear of getting in trouble or getting stuff like that. But I came with a lot of energy, a lot of strength, and a lot of things where we would have two giant angelic type beings around me through up into my teen years, and they would always protect me from harm. For example, I got hit by a car when I was about 7 years old. Smashed up the car, but I wasn't hurt, and they were protecting me, stuff like that. So I think to answer, hopefully I answered the question correctly, but I think that I just came in with a lot more energy than most.
Yeah.
And I also had the ability back then to see consciousness. I was able to take consciousness and split them into two. So as you're putting focus, for example, if you're putting focus into what you're doing right now, imagine taking another part of you and putting the same amount of focus in something else and work those simultaneously. Then take a step back and manage them both or merge both or do stuff like that. So for years I had that ability. Worked great in school.
You know what's amazing? I have an English student, and she was telling me she's had a lot of crazy experiences as well. And let me not use the word crazy experience, but what people know. Well, so many people are having them that is anonymous. What most people wouldn't talk about. So she was telling me when she was really young, she used to have this toy, and I can't remember the way it's called in English. With the beads, and it has colors on it, and you count. So, do you know what I'm talking about? It's a very old toy.
No.
No, it's the old calculators that they used to use.
An abacus, not an abacus.
Yes, an abacus.
An abacus.
And each one had a color on it. And what she was telling me about that was that when she uses that to count, each number is a color. It adds up. So when she does 4 plus 4, it would be like something like blue plus blue gives me, let's just say, red. And then that's how she gets the calculations. So she's in front of me, she's done these huge calculations in her mind that most of us are like. So I'm wondering if you had something similar in that way that you're able to You obviously you're using your brain in a different way than the
Right.
average person does.
Well, I had something similar to that. I never, when I went through school, I never knew how I got the answers. I could look at something and say, oh, it's, 3XY or whatever. And things came easy that way, where I could look at something with a row of switches and know which ones to press and flip and stuff like that. So I knew the answers without actually knowing how I got it, you know. So I've had similar things like that. Yeah.
Hmm. So you always felt that you were somehow like connected into this universal mind. Like,
Um, at that time, I thought it was the universal mind. Yeah. Yes, I thought it was what I think people nowadays call the source. Um, Later in life, I discovered something else that is slightly a variation of it. But for back then, yes, I thought I was connected with the source, but with my own consciousness. If that makes any sense. I mean,
yeah.
Hmm.
You, you know what's in the beginning of the first book, I was finding that was very similar to my own life was that having the when I was young, having spirits come and stare at you, and I
yeah,
can feel it, and I would pull the covers over, and then just hoping they would go away. Or the other one was that's something that my nephew experienced as well, which is the seeing a blue orb.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
so how did you personally deal with the constant visits?
Well, surprisingly, at least in my experience, I found that my reactions were largely due to the memories I had. I was deeply ingrained in memories of religious life, and so the visits that came to me at first were, God, angels, the devil, demons, stuff like that, because that's what my experiences drew upon it. Later in life, as I start to expand my awareness and realize and trust what I believed my higher self was or what I was before coming here, I start to realize that the imagery that I was seeing, like a demonic zombified type thing with maggots running around the face and squirming, was not a demon, but yet it was actually a spirit that came to me. That the energies were so dissimilar to mine that my memory interpreted it as a demonic creature. So that was one of the adjustments I had to make, you know, to see more clearly.
So that points something that a lot of people there. Well, I won't say a lot. I've heard a few people talk on something similar along these similar lines that the entities that we interact with on those different realms and dimensions many times take the form right out of our consciousness of something that we will be able to accept in some form or fashion.
Well, I found that it works both ways. That is part of it. The other part of it, I realized in the middle of my life when I started finding these pathways and went through other realms and realities, was that the farther away you get from we'll call it a spirit or entity that has a humanistic trait to it, the more it mirrors the emotional state that you give off. So if you're feeling an energy of a spirit that doesn't have a humanistic characteristic to it, the vibrational energies or the frequencies feel so different that your fear dwells up. And it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever deal with shooting cameras, but a good SLR camera may have like 19 to 23 different lenses inside there. And when you're shooting an object, sometimes light gets caught inside like lens 2 or 3 and then starts bouncing back and you get this light reflection, kind of like an orb shaped glowing thing. And in a lot of ways, spirits like that, where they'll come into you and they don't know how to handle that emotional energy you give off. And when you see it, fear rises up because the energies are so dissimilar that it sort of acts as a bouncing. It hits them, they react different, and then it goes back to you. You heighten your fear, and it keeps bouncing back and forth. And what it turns into is something that would be a dissimilar entity that's just curious would turn into a traumatic or terrifying experience. So,
Hmm.
does that make sense? Or?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
So I wanted to, because this one I found very interesting. You've been to a version of hell.
Yeah.
Can you describe that? It's like
Oh,
I'm wondering if that day did someone say, "Ah, go to hell," and then you're like, "Okay."
well, I think this was at the phase of my life where my guides were showing me things, and a lot of times when they do this, there's like outside the realm of our consciousness. I call it the digital signal. It's got all this wavelengths with tons of information. And inside our consciousness, we have what's called an analog brain. And we have this tiny little translator box that translates this massive digital signal, grabs pieces out of it and throws it into your analog brain to try to interpret it. And what it does is it grabs imagery of what's in your brain, but it takes not necessarily the image of the item, but the frequency or the energy that's behind it. So if you think of a traumatic experience, good or bad, generally the experience you have on these sides are going to take that experience, but you got to look beyond the imagery and go into the energies behind it. So when this happened, I didn't know none of that. So it took upon my memories that I had of a very religious heaven and hell. And two angels had brought me down there, or guides, and I was standing in this, it was kind of like a mossy type, huge cavernous thing. And it had real tough rock that had like blood and guts and stuff all oozing from it. And the screams were held, I mean, you heard it everywhere, and I was terrified. And basically, if it wasn't for the feeling the presence of the two and hearing their voices, I think, I don't know what I would have done, but I was guided through this thing. And right in the center, it had this, what looked just what you would think river stinks or fish, whatever that's called, the river stinks, river Styx. And it had this massive waterfall on one end of the cavern, and it rolled across, and it was just this putrid iron death smell flowing from this river. And as I walked up to it, you hear the screams and the anguish and all this stuff, and you're looking closer at it, and you're seeing something's moving underneath, and you see this movement of different things, and it kind of looked like I would call like if you took a bunch of maggots and threw them on the ground and then dumped a bunch of thick paint on it, how it would squirm. And I bent down towards it because I was told to take a closer look, and I didn't want to do that. I was terrified. And when I bent down, the thing tried to reach out for me. And when it did, it felt like, well, first I was, just all I seen was this thing coming at me, and you hear the screams and the anguish and the torment inside this thing. And as it came out towards me, it hit about, I'd have to say probably about probably 6-8 inches from myself, and it hit my energy or my aura or whatever, and it actually felt like a magnetic field that clashed, and it recoiled right back in and started screaming and moving everything. And then I flew back, jumped back real quick. And now keep in mind, this is not a dream. This is actually real life where you could feel the stuff and smell the stuff and hear the stuff. And I mean, it was so vivid. It was like being there,
Right.
And it took many years to realize exactly what it meant. But I didn't. I was terrified, from it. So.
Yeah.
So what did you get out of that experience?
It's our thoughts. It showed us at the time that every thought that we think collects with like thoughts. And a thought can be an action, can be a thought is what we typically think of a thought is. And it builds and it develops into something real. Now, it doesn't always manifest itself in the physical. It can manifest itself in these realms, which contain it till it gets big enough, and then it sort of creates a creature of its own and then it comes back. But for the most part, the energies behind it was all these tormented of individual souls upon this earth, and they were just the thoughts and the manifestations and the anguish, and that was all built up into it. And in this realm that I was taken to, it became alive. As live as you and I are, as we are, I should say. So
Right.
I don't know if that makes any sense, but it was.
Would you consider that realm what is termed fourth dimensional?
Now the interesting thing is, I really never knew what the dimensions were till later in life. I wouldn't call it. What I think most people consider this as a third dimensional. I would have to say this is probably one of the realms that is attached to the third dimensional reality. So it's within the frequency range of this reality, but it's a I like to call it a little bubble of that is linked alongside of it.
So
That's interesting.
So there is no place that you're sent to when you're not a good soul.
Well,
So this
keep in mind, this was before it took me many years to understand this stuff. But when I was guided to these things, I thought they were real. I mean, I think they're real now, but I thought they were like a real hell and a real heaven and a real purgatory. I don't think that now. I think that they're just realms that are created. See, what people don't realize is when you have these like-minded vibrations, like this physical reality, which is a third dimensional reality, it's kind of like a bubble. And this bubble has all these individual souls that are in it, and this third dimensional physical reality has it. Its thoughts maintain the stability of the bubble. Okay. Now, if some of these thoughts have a couple different reactions, you get a group of people that would think a certain train of thought, good, bad, or indifferent. It tries to hold its vibrational rate within the bubble, and it can't. So it actually goes to the outer surface of this bubble, and it actually creates what I call a realm, which is a bubble outside it, which is touching and heard. So all the similar energies go into it. Now, what I found in these realms, a lot of these are what people consider hell and heaven and purgatory and difference, but there are realms of true love. There's realms of things of like intellect realms. There's many different things that are attached alongside these things now. And if you travel along through it, you would go into these realms and you would see life. It's kind of like a parallel reality, but it's not really like it. But anyways, you'd see real physical life, but it's more of an energetic. And a lot of these realms, what happens is they're only temporary for a period of time, where they build up enough mass where they're able to merge itself back into the main realm or main reality, which is the bubble of our physical.
That's very interesting.
Well, I think I on one level, I definitely understand what you're talking about there, because I've seen that at play in my own life, where I've sensed this, where I felt like I was in a kind of a separate bubble type reality from majority of the rest of the world, having an experience outside of the standard third dimensional experiential system that's set up. And then, that all these different anomalies occurred. And then, like, when I came back out of that, then I felt like I merged back with the greater reality that's here. And that bubble was no longer around.
Yeah, well, people do that more than you realize. I've learned techniques over the years to be able to, what I call is, turn myself slightly out of phase of time, which I could tell you an experience in a few seconds if you'd like it. But basically, what you do is, with your consciousness, you create these realms, push it outside of time and space, which is, or partially out or whatever, but it pulls it outside the reality. Bubble into your own individual realm bubble, and you can actually slow down time, speed up time. You can become invisible, so to speak, from other people, other things, other spirits, entities, You can interact with other beings if they decide to join you in that realm. So yeah, it's perfectly normal. You've done that. So
You
So,
said you shared an experience with us about this.
okay, I had about 3 years ago, roughly. I was guided by an overwhelming urge to move. There were some portals that were created in the apartment that I lived into that were not so nice portals, and I was told to basically leave. Otherwise, not so nice things were going to happen. But things started happening there, so I decided. I said, "Okay, then you got to show me." And I jumped in my car, and this is the first thing. It's rarely ever happens, but I was guided to this apartment complex that I'm in now. And I went in the apartment complex, and I said, she showed the map, and I said, I want this apartment. She looked at me and said, well, that was never even assigned for sale, but it's empty. So I ended up taking it. And what I noticed during the first 4 or 5 months, it had a portal outside well, my apartment faces a stream that goes into a lake. Very nice view. Michigan apparently has a lot of lakes around here, so there's a lot of nice places. But anyways, well, hey, you gotta have it, right? So I they have a little dock that's out there, and it was in the springtime, so I sit down there, and I was sitting on my lawn chair, looking at this thing, trying to figure out, because this portal where it was a portal where the stream entered the lake. That was where the main portal was. And then they had this smaller sized portal that was probably halfway between the dock and the lake. And inside there was something, and it was a nature type spirit, and it was something that I had never felt before. So I'd sit on there for days, and I'd focus on it. I'd feel the energies come up on the water, and as the energy started coming up, you'd see the bubbles or stuff would rise from the water, and it would sink down and that. Well, after about the fourth day that I was out there, I was sitting at the dock, and all of a sudden the atmosphere around me started changing, and I started noticing. I'm thinking, oh great, what am I going to do? Start phase shifting again? So, but you remain calm and you detach your emotional state out of it. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching this thing, and all of a sudden this rise comes out of the middle of the stream, and this black shaped. I'm trying to figure out what it looked like. It's hard to describe, but it's kind of like a feminine, sort of humanistic or human version being with a kind of like a squirrel-like, those flying squirrels they have with the big, looks like sheets that are attached to them, but it sort of looked like that. But it was about 8 feet by probably about 5 feet in width. And I'm looking at it, it's dancing around. And as it's dancing, you watch the trails in the water. But as I'm noticing, I'm starting to notice that I'm not hearing no birds or anything. And I look over to the dock, and all of a sudden, the dock feels like it's being pulled to the center of the stream. So at first I thought, oh my gosh, the dock had broken, and I'm drifting off into the center of the lake or center of the stream. So I look over, and it had the main dock where the boats are attached, which didn't have any at the time. And it had about a 3-foot dock or whatever it is, the plankway that walked to the dock. And that started stretching farther and farther until it became like 6 feet. And I'm thinking, oh, great, I had one of those trips and I didn't do no drugs. So I look out to the side. It's like you're going crazy. It's like, so you look out the side, and all of a sudden you see the kids playing ball, and, it's in the back of the complex. And all of a sudden everyone's moving at like a third the speed, moving really slow. And I'm looking at it with no sound, dead sound. And I'm looking at it. And right then and there, I knew from previous experiences that a bubble has been created outside of time and space. And reality inside the bubble, which where I was at, was moving normal because the waves were moving with no sound, but the waves were moving. The steam was moving around the center of this, dancing probably about, 20 feet in front of me. And, but everybody outside the bubble was moving extremely slow. Everything was like the people were tossing the balls and moving really slow. But so I had to focus my attention back on this beam, and it glided across, and I'm watching. It was mesmerizing. It was glide across, and it would zoom up close to me, and it would zoom back out. And after, well, I don't know, 5 or 6 times, the thing came up real quick, and it hit me. And when it passed through me, two things happened. Now I'm sitting in a chair leaning back, so I can't, my legs are not able to like push off and push back, but I was pushed back from the chair to the point where it pushed back halfway across the dock. And my feet were already stretched out anyways.
Mm.
And secondly, as I did that, it spoke to me. And it was what I call the planet guardian. And it was fascinating, but it had to pull me outside at the time to be able to communicate.
So this wasn't what people would call Gaia or.
Well, it didn't tell me its name. It just told me what it was, which is kind of strange because it's not like saying, "Hey, I called it the planet guardian," and it's not Gaia. It was it'd be like a guardian angel for us, It was a high level spirit there to help the planet. And it told me, it basically told me a bunch of things. One of the things was it wasn't going to be there anymore. And it waited a long time to talk to me. And there was a whole bunch of things it mentioned to me. It was beautiful and sad. And after it left and after the experience happened, believe it or not, the river, the stream that flowed in the lake had stopped in reverse flow. To this day, it goes the opposite direction now. So,
Wow.
Now, keep in mind, I have all these experiences, and I try to look at things in a logical mindset because it's the only thing I have is to compare to the physical realm. So I'm constantly going to doctors, and I'm constantly getting, medical checkups to say that I am not, to prove that I'm not crazy, that these are not hallucinations.
Right.
Hold on a second, I got an earthquake. What are you doing over there?
Got an earthquake going on, huh?
Yeah, it's not strong though. I can tell this again.
I did have burrito last night, so I apologize.
It's so funny. I've gotten so used to it. Continue. It stopped. It was really weak.
That's interesting. I've never had one. Well, actually, I had one of those years ago, but nothing like you guys.
After 3/11, it just I don't even wake up for them anymore.
You guys are still having a whole bunch of them?
Yeah. I mean, not as much as like that first month, because that first month I experienced so many. But now, like when they first happened, I would like get up, open the doors, grab the emergency bag, and now I look up and just go back to sleep.
Braver than I am.
Well, the human being can get used to anything, so it's like I've gotten so sensitive to it that I can feel it in my spine before they happen, like few seconds before they happen, and I don't know if I want to say that, but I can somewhat tell how strong they're gonna be. So if it's just gonna shake things up, I'm not really too worried.
Well,
moving back to your experience, because I've had something similar to yours. Tom, is my voice breaking up?
No, I'm getting a little echo there from somewhere though.
Oh, you guys are both sounding perfect in this end.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's just occasional too, so don't worry about it. Go forward.
Okay. So, I've had certain experience where, for example, I went to where I met Tom before we started the show. I went to ECETI and I saw the speaker, Miriam Delgado, and I saw her speak, and I spoke to her outside, and she spoke to me in Spanish and everything. And then it was confirmed that she never went. She wasn't a speaker.
Sounds
And
like
yeah, and I asked her about it, and she said a lot of people told her that happens to her. That people say they've met her, And I said, I saw what you talk about, and the only reason why we invited you to the show is because I saw you speak, but no one else did. Other people remember hearing her. One other person said that they heard her talk about going there, but that's only one other person. Um, so that one really made me feel like I was nuts. The other one was that not consistently, but every once in a while, I'll be walking and I feel like either a wave hits me where everything is like becomes fluid for 1 second, or I feel like I'm stretched out real quick, like a rubber band almost.
You are aware that the realities are breaking down, aren't you? That the see, in a nutshell, when we created this universe, or the being that's in the source, if you want to call it, created the universe, it created we took part in it because we are, believe it or not, we are all a universe out there. We are all a individual God, and I apologize if it offends anyone. And that's just my view, take it or leave it, but we share parts of ourselves, and we stamp a record of sorts when a universe is created in another universe. So we give that record or that imprint into the universe that we go into, and we experience the past, present, future, as well as all parallel lives and everything we want to experience in that particular universe all at the same time. So what happens is whenever there's major influx in that reality of that bubble, it creates a distortion, or so to speak, where you literally jump without realizing from one timeline to another, from one parallel life to another. So it could very well be that you phased into it, during those moments, and then you phased out of it.
Yeah, a lot of people are reporting that too, because a lot of people would remember someone famous dying and then they're not dead.
Mm-hmm.
But they remember seeing the news on it and everything.
Well, I do have an interesting thing on that if you want to hear it.
Yeah, of course.
What I've noticed when I was passing through these things was a couple different things. One is, well, I'm going to backtrack here real quick and give you a brief description of how the universe is laid out, and then I have to jump over to the other one to tell you, otherwise it wouldn't make sense. But you have imagine having a 4-foot by 4-foot square box, wire frame box, with a very thin vellum all wrapped all around it. Inside this box, you have a large bubble, a soap bubble, that is between 60 to 80% size of the container. And then all around it, you have these various size, smaller soap bubbles, but they're all contained and filled the blank spaces within it. They're all attached on the surfaces around it. Now, the larger bubble, of course, is a reality, and the smaller bubbles are called realms. And a reality realm is both real, but the main frequency that this box contains holds that particular thing. So one bubble can't jump from another bubble, so to speak, but from one box to another. But it contains everything within a certain frequency spectrum. Well, if you take this and you add this one box and you take and make 20 boxes across, 20 boxes high, and 20 boxes wide, that is what's called a universe. So as you're traveling through this thing, most people don't realize, but it is not the thought of the inside the bubble, which is the souls and the spirits and all those things reside inside there. It is not the energy of those thoughts that is the strong, but it's actually the surface tension of the bubble which contains the most energy. It is the thoughts that maintain the stability of the bubble, but it doesn't actually maintain the reality that holds in it. It's the energy that's around it. Now, the traveling through these realms, what happens a lot of times is the energy is of the surface tensions around the bubble, and there's like these fine veins that go from the surface back into each individual spirit or being, which contains into the soul, or whatever you want to say, which could be the thread or whatever, but it's actually the divine energy that flows from each individual. And when you take a trip from yourself up the vein into the surface tension of the bubble, and you jump from surface tension to surface tension to surface tension. Well, and when you get to certain frequencies of this, you can jump from one box to the next through the surface tension. That's how you travel through the universe this way. And what people don't realize, and go back to your original question, is that up until now, the size of the bubble can increase a little bit or decrease, but the realms around it either have to be absorbed back in or what. But it can't change. It's stuck in that frequency. Well, what's happening in this phase in time is this thing's going through a metamorphosis. It's actually higher energy beings, like you probably already know this, but anybody that's on this planet right now is the top of the top of parts of where they came from. They're the cream of the crop. They're the highest energies. Whether they use their highest potential or not, here's a different story, but we're top of the top. And by just interjecting these beams in the reality of this bubble, it creates a different frequency range outside of what the bubble can contain. So it creates an instability along the surface of this bubble, which eventually, when it does implode, it creates the energy necessary to transform the frequency range of the bubbles and the realms that are inside this box into something new. Now, what's happening with the experience you're saying is if you look at the subatomic particles of an atom, you're going to notice that they're vibrating faster and faster to a point where they're reaching a point where it's hitting this theoretical maximum limit it can go into this realm. And it's kind of hitting that glass ceiling. And it's creating a huge amount of instability. Well, what's happening by doing that, realms that are similar to it, which are parallel realms that you're also attached to, are actually imploding. And that energy is being raced along the surface tension of the bubble into this reality. So there's many things that are happening during this time of this main physical reality, is that the memories of past life, memories of parallel lives that already have included, are impeding into your reality. So you're temporarily, memory-wise, phase shifting into those. So you're experiencing where you see a tree as you're going to work and you come back and there's no tree there, that type of thing. You'll talk to somebody and all of a sudden it ain't there. Well, a lot of times it's because of the energy that's being applied, and because the energy of that parallel reality goes back to the beings that are in this reality, which is the same. We're just parts of ourselves that are different. So what's causing it is the instability is causing memories to come back from other realms and other realities, experiences too, and it's also causing a greater awareness where we're starting to expand our own awareness and becoming more of who we are, and that's causing our abilities to be able to do, create things, manifest things, make things disappear, bring different beings in our lives, and so on. I don't know if that helps or not. But.
Yeah, actually, that's
It's
I've heard.
interesting explanation.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
me, that's actually the best. You drew the best picture of it. I've heard what you said from many other different people, but I think you drew the best picture, at least in my mind.
Hmm.
That, of course, is a short version of it. We could talk big things, but that is the main cut of it, and it makes sense, at least from my experiences.
Yeah, so from what it sounds like, the box itself is shifting and changing.
Yeah, what's happening is up until this point, the box could only, two things could happen. You could either squeeze now I don't know if you're familiar with fluid, with pneumatics, but one of the main reasons why they use oil when they do like hydraulics and that.
Compression, right.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say oil doesn't compress, but in technical terms, it actually compresses a little bit. But for illustration purposes, we'll say that oil does not compress, even though that's not entirely true. But air does a lot of compression. You can squeeze a lot of air in something and make it a higher pressure thing and still maintain the same integrity. But up until this point, we couldn't go beyond this box. When we're concealed by this frequency range. Up to a point we were hitting the glass ceiling on each one. So all we were doing was squeezing the energy inside the reality because we couldn't expand the bubble anymore. We've already expanded it, but our consciousness, because of all this other energy of the outside of these bubbles that have erupted in other realms and realities outside here, it ran along the surface, came down and implanted us, or embedded it in our higher selves. We've expanded, we've compressed that. So what's happening is the energy inside that bubble has to go somewhere short term. So it starts raising the frequency of lower density objects, which could be beings, creatures, spirits. It could be rocks, plants. It could be, and this high or low doesn't mean good or bad, or
Right.
Well, what it's doing is imagine yourself on a ladder and everything's starting to squeeze from the bottom up. You're in that crash can that's starting to compact. And it gets to a point where everything starts compressing upwards, which is causing the psychosis that people are experiencing, because your mind is expanding, your intellect's expanding, but the physical realm is getting pretty close to the same vibrational rate as you. So what's going to happen is all it's going to take at a certain point is some massive implosion of this outer physical bubble with all this dense energy. And because things are compressed so much and the energy is amplified, it's kind of like kneading dough, where you take dough and you take it and you roll it down, you press it down, you roll it again, you keep applying, kneading, and it starts getting denser. You start densing things, compacting things. And what happens in that case is that energy that it takes at that microsecond when things reach critical mass, what's going to happen is that is going to be energy that's going to catapult the consciousness of every being in this world into multiple realities at once. So that's one reason why a lot of people, like some people, are experiencing horrific end of days. Let's pack the thing and move out in the middle of nowhere. And others are experiencing major enlightenments, and others are experiencing something totally different, because they're gearing themselves as a springboard to shoot when this time comes and the realities implode, and you'll actually shoot yourself into a new reality, I should say.
So what about the ones that seem to be completely unaffected by what's going on right now? I mean, they're doing their same old thing, pay no mind to this stuff or that stuff, live their third dimensional their lives, nose down to the sidewalk, never looking up, just moving along, playing the game, acting like absolutely nothing's wrong.
What happens with them is, think about it, you have, and you guys are too. You have these high level energy beings that come down, and that is by no means meant to say one person's better than another. They come in, they create the instability. It creates enough pressure in there that allows those to go to what some people call fifth dimension, which I hate to use those, because when terminology becomes commonplace, it loses its type of meaning. But at any rate, a few will actually go really high and create, they'll be work within the universe, but actually be outside the universe. But I can go into detail later on that. There'll be a mass of people that will, that desire their souls and their spirits to live the life of technology with UFOs. That a reality will be created, and they'll branch off into there. You'll have reality where people are heavily into faith, and they believe in heaven, hell, the spirits and that, and they will actually go to a reality that will form where they think they're in heaven and glorious and all good and all this stuff. And then you got the people that are living, that just enjoy this life, this physical reality, and they're not done with it. So they will be transported, so to speak, sideways to a similar vibrational rate that is in there now. So they'll be going to another Earth 2, let's say.
So I've experienced some things that brought this thought across my consciousness, where I felt like much of the environment around me, and this was not the just run-of-the-mill self-aggrandizement type consciousness effect that I was experiencing, but I felt as if everything in my environment and around me was there specifically to teach me what I needed to learn out of that situation. I mean, I felt as if the beings, all the beings that were there, all the beings, I call them beings, but all the people that were there in that situation were all there for the primary purpose and the principal purpose of teaching me what I needed to learn out of that experience. Now, how do you see that sort of scenario?
Well, I think you got it half right. Okay. If you expand, and I'm not by no means saying that you're anything, but if you expand your awareness a little bit out on the edge, every interaction that we have, whether it's through another person, whether it's through a spirit, an angel, a guide, a being, a plant, a piece of wood, or whatever, exchanges energy. Okay, a piece of them becomes part of you, and you become a part of them.
Right.
And this is one of the concepts that we get of unification of the source, which that's for another topic altogether. But at any rate, what happens is they are offering, because of an agreement you had made. Remember, everything's happening at once. You've already agreed that these beings and the things around you are going to experience this time and moment of space. So you get this experience from them, and they're grateful to give it. But they're also learning just as much on their end as you. So it's a shared symbiotic relationship at that point. So, you only see the one side where it's like, oh, I'm receiving these great graces from them or experiences. But in reality, they're receiving just as much by learning.
No, there's a difference. A couple of situations where there's been a distinct difference in what I sensed and felt out of the whole situation. I mean, I lived that whole experience of sharing energy and sharing experience with everybody I interact with on a moment by moment, day by day basis. I mean, I fully understand the exchange of energy and experience. I mean, I'm a very, I consider myself to be relatively sensitive when it comes to energy and how it's exchanged between beings. So, but I've had some very distinct experiences that were, they were within this dimension, distinctly within this dimension, but it was maybe this, I'm referring to more of one of these separate little reality bubbles that pop up within this reality for distinct purposes, is more along those lines. So anyways.
And it's a great experience, and it's honored to have something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Tom, probably you should elaborate more what experience exactly you're talking about. So we can, the audience and we can understand better what you mean.
Well, okay, I'll just pick one of them. Now, which one will come across best here? Okay, I was in a situation, this was shortly after my wake up in Palm Springs, and I was put into a situation where I was in a room with several people. There were like 5 different people in there, and the conversations that were going on were coming completely straight out of my consciousness, and I didn't know any of these people. There was one person in the room that I did vaguely know, just knew who he was, etc., that sort of thing, but I didn't know him. And the conversations that they had a direct effect on what I was looking into at the time, which happened to be the book of Daniel in the Bible. And the guy's name who
Tom, hold on 1 second, sorry. I'm getting like a lot of echo.
Want me to try and turn my sound down?
Yeah.
Maybe if you're on one of those open.
How's that?
Let's see.
1,
2, 1, 2. Yeah, that's much better.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
apologize.
that's probably what part of it was.
Yeah, go ahead.
Shouldn't talk as loud either. So anyways, I was in this room, and one of the guys' names happened to be Daniel. And that just took it up over the top. Where the whole situation, and I don't remember exactly how the conversations went, but I was trying to understand the reality of Daniel and the prophecies contained within that book. And the dialogue that these other people were having were a direct, absolute direct reflection to what was going on inside my internal dialogue. It was like I was asking questions and they were responding. And this experience lasted for about 30, 45 minutes, something like that. And I left the room, and when the next time I came back there, which was, I guess maybe an hour later, there was nobody there. And I never saw a single one of them again except for that Daniel. So, I mean, that's just one of those experiences that it felt completely out of this world.
It could be a lot of things. I mean, it could be your awareness expanding, and the people you were talking to could possibly not even be in the physical. I mean, it could be
exactly what I was getting at there. You know, I've had those experiences where there were beings that were not in the physical that did come in and interact with me. But then again, I've also had experiences that where people seem to, I don't know, the rest of their whole existence, from my perspective, is so mundane, or so just mundane's not the right word. Limited. I don't know, but they've performed one specific function for me in my path, and it made me ask questions like, "Oh my God, is that all they're here for?" And I've actually had one that actually ended up dying shortly after that experience, my interaction with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Then I asked the question, okay, well, they finished their task here and checked out. Oh, here's another good one, Ramon. The where I got my tarot cards. You know that story.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, tell John briefly.
I'd gotten this deck of cards from this girl. She'd given it to me to try out, and I played with them for about a month. And I'm getting real bad echo here still, Ramon.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have earphones by any chance?
I didn't even think of getting one, to be honest with you. Let me see if I can move these speakers a little differently. This is my first time on Skype, so.
No worries.
Okay, I turned the direction speakers in a different way.
That made some difference. So, anyways, I'd gotten this deck of cards, and she loaned it to me to see if I was interested in learning the tarot or experiencing the tarot. And I played with them for a month and decided, yes, I want to get at my own deck. So I went over to her house on a Friday afternoon. Her name was Connie. And this is in San Bernardino. Connie lived in Fontana. I drove over to Fontana and told her, well, let's go get me a deck of cards. And she said, okay, I know the perfect place. And we went to this place down on, I can't remember the name of the street, Fontana Boulevard or something. Well, the main drag there in Fontana, California, in the parking lot of the shopping center was this place called the Golden Unicorn, metaphysical shop. It had this big cut out plywood unicorn up above it and on the front of the store. And it was a cool store. I walked in there like 5 minutes right before closing. It was almost 5 o'clock. And I walked up to the counter and I saw my deck of cards, and I was like, I had that gravitational pull to it. It was like, oh, these are my cards. And right next to it was the box that I keep my cards in. I was like, oh, this is my box. And they had all sorts of cool stuff in the store, and I wanted to check it out more, but while we were there, they locked the doors, and I was like, okay, we'll get this. Connie will come back here tomorrow and check stuff out. So I got my cards, took off. Next day, I went over to Connie's at noon, picked her up, and we drove down to the Golden Unicorn. Drove in the parking lot. This place has got plywood boarding up the windows. I could not believe the place was boarded up overnight. I walked up to the front of the place and I could still see through, some spots that weren't covered in the windows, and the place was empty, completely empty. They had completely I mean, this place was a full metaphysical store, bookshelves and shelves and crystals, and I mean, just completely, this place was completely packed. And from 5 o'clock the night before till noon the next day, it disappeared. It was gone.
See, John, you're not the only one that's crazy.
Yeah, well, those things are you jump to realities is what you did. You went into a parallel reality.
Yeah.
And did you notice that as you were walking up to that bookstore or that metaphysical shop, did you notice that the energies felt a little strange?
I wasn't very sensitive to the energy then. I mean, I hadn't even started to open that stuff up for myself. This is before I got down on my knees and asked what the hell's going on.
Okay. Yeah, you jumped realities.
But that was like, whoa, holy crap, this place was in existence to get me my cards, and then they were out of here. It's the last thing they had to do. Then they're gone.
Well, if that ever happens, if you can try to at that moment feel it, you'll notice there'll be a slight subtle change in energetic frequencies.
Right. I sense that sort of thing now when something above and beyond the normal is happening. I can feel it now. There's an air that the feel just feels different. So
yeah,
I always say it's like walking through thick pea soup. It's like a barrier that you run into, and it's like walking through thick pea soup for a split second or two.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you, where they feel nauseous. Has that happened to you? After they go through those barriers,
certain type of energy for me.
What I've had happen is the worst, believe it or not, for me, is when I jump between parallel realities that are not similar but totally different. I had many experiences before, but each time that happens, for a split, a few seconds, it literally brings me down to my knees, because the memories of this life, it's hard to explain, but imagine having the memories of this life in your brain and you see it all at once. And then all of a sudden, the memories of those parallel lives push themselves in alongside of it all at once. So you're seeing both lives running simultaneously. And it literally knocks me down on my knees, and I become incapacitated for a little bit. And that's when I jump from parallel reality to not one that's similar. If you get some that are like the typical example, a tree there or not there, and you talk to someone out there, the energies are so similar that they you jump and you feel that different frequency, that pea soup thing. But there's been some realities that are so different that you actually have the memories collide at the same time, and then when you eventually do come back, they collide back in the exact same way.
Wow. So we've run well over an hour in this first segment.
Have we
here.
Really?
Yeah, we have. As we suspected, Ramon, I think this is going to end up going more than just a couple of segments. We've got a lot of questions for you.
No, John, speed up the time. That's what it was. It's only.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Shaking the pan, speeding up time.
So John, what we're going to do here is we're going to let's get your information out there. Where can people get a hold of your books? So, I mean, this is a good place for people to start to get to understand what you've learned and shared with us. Where can we get your books? You have a website, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I don't have a website, believe it or not. But what I did do is I created it. Well, my books can be ordered at any bookstore, but you can mainly get them at Amazon.com. And where you can go is I got a YouTube channel that I set up for all the links of my books on there. So if you wanted a one-stop, point and click, you can go there. And the YouTube channel is John's Johns Video Books. And just go in there, either type that or type in, www.youtube.com/John's video book, and it'll give you on the right side all the links, to the different books, and they're in Kindle,
We have a link for your YouTube on this page also, so they can get there directly for that.
Yeah, if you actually just click on the picture of his books, it'll take you right on there. So that's the easy way. And I just want to promote your book because I had a fascinating read, and I gotta say that I think I'll start with this in the second segment, but I had a bit of epiphany, kind of understanding, let's just say a little bit more of what we're experiencing than what we quote unquote call reality.
That's why we do what we do, right?
Well, thank you.
That's for you, John. That's what we do. Why we do what we do is to help other people grow, learn.
Yeah. So I would say pick up these books. They're a fascinating read, and they definitely help expand your mind a lot more. Not a little more, a lot more. Yeah, I gotta say, your life is not boring, is it?
I'm actually tired, believe it or not. I mean, it feels like literally that I've lived about 300 years. It really has.
Yeah.
And, I'm looking forward to what's coming is what I am. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that in the second, the third, or the fourth segment, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks for listening to this first segment. If you want to hear the second segment in this first chat with John, then hit that members button and help support Ramon and I with the 100th Monkey Radio. Love you guys. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
And we'll see you in the second segment.
When the students are ready, the teacher will appear. When you are too uncomfortable, you will face your fears. Then you may pause and wonder, what took you so much time? But questioning is pointless when everybody knows your crime. The sun is feeding me powerful rays, and today I will change my ways. Today any waiting just as nothing. I am deciding to seize the day. I am deciding to seize the day. I'm so grateful that I have the chance to look over my lessons and change my circumstance. The greatest gift you receive is the task to improve yourself. Graduation from your past is the greatest source of wealth. The sun is feeding me powerful rays, and today I will change my ways. The ain't waiting just as nothing. I am deciding to seize the day. I am deciding to seize the day. Chances to grow. I will do my best, pass each test until I find my way home. The sun is feeding me powerful rays, and today I will change my ways. Today any waiting just as nothing. I am deciding to seize the day. The sun is feeding me powerful rays, and today I will change my way. Today any waiting just as nothing. I am deciding to seize the day. Yes, I am deciding to seize the day.